The exact same action can make you a hero or a criminal, depending on nothing but what people already believe about you. Steal from your king, and you might lose your feet. Steal from your king out of devotion, and the same king calls you an angel. Nothing about the act changed, only the reputation of the person doing it. That's the uncomfortable truth sitting underneath one of the oldest observations about power. Reputation isn't a reflection of who you are. It's a lens other people look through, and it decides what they see, no matter what's actually there. During China's War of the Three Kingdoms, a general named Zhuge Liang sent almost his entire army off to a distant camp, leaving himself in a small town with 100 men and no real defense. Then came the news. An enemy force of over 150,000 troops, under a commander named Sima Yi, was marching straight toward him. By any military logic, Liang was finished. So he did something that looks, on the surface, like madness. He ordered his soldiers to lower the flags, throw open the city gates, and hide. Then he climbed to the most visible spot on the city wall, put on a Taoist robe, lit incense, and sat down to play the lute, alone, exposed, unarmed, in full view of an army 1,000 times his size. When Sima Yi's forces reached the gates, they found no resistance and no soldiers waiting for them, just an old man on a wall, calmly singing as if 150,000 troops weren't standing in front of him. Sima Yi stared at the scene and hesitated. Then he ordered a full retreat. Sima Yi wasn't a fool. For a moment, the thought crossed his mind that Liang might actually be alone and desperate, but he had fought Liang before. He knew Liang's reputation as the most cunning strategist in China, a man who always had a trick waiting, and that reputation alone was enough to make an army of 150,000 men turn around and walk away from an open, undefended city without a single arrow fired. That's the first thing worth understanding about reputation. It isn't decoration, it's leverage. It can do the work of an entire army before you've said a single word or lifted a single weapon. And once you see that, a second, harder truth follows right behind it. If reputation decides how your actions are read, then the same behavior can be praised or punished depending on nothing but which version of you people currently believe in. There's a story from the ancient Chinese court of Wei that shows exactly how brutal that swing can be. A courtier named Mi Tzu Xia was the ruler's favorite, known for his devotion and grace. One day, his mother fell ill, and Mi Tzu Xia, without permission, used the ruler's private coach to rush to her side, a crime punishable by having his feet cut off. When the ruler found out, he was moved. "How dutiful is Mi Tzu Xia," he said. For his mother's sake, he forgot he was risking his own feet. Later, on a walk through an orchard, Mi Tzu Xia bit into a peach, found it delicious, and handed the ruler the other half to finish. The ruler was charmed all over again. "You love me so much," he said. "You'd even forget your own saliva was on it, just so I could taste it." Years passed. Envious courtiers began whispering that Mi Tzu Xia was actually arrogant, self-serving, dangerous. Slowly, the ruler's opinion turned, and when it did, he looked back on the exact same two stories, the coach and the peach, and saw them completely differently. "This man," he said, now furious, "once rode in my coach without permission, and another time he made me eat his leftover peach." Nothing about the events had changed, only the reputation attached to them had, and Mi Tzu Xia paid for actions that a year earlier had made him beloved. That's not an isolated case. That's how reputation works on all of us all the time. We don't judge people primarily on the full, complicated truth of who they are because we can't. Nobody has access to that. We judge on what's visible, the story that precedes someone into the room. And once that story is set, it doesn't just describe you. It rewrites how every future action of yours gets interpreted. So if reputation has that much power, the next question is obvious. Can you build it? Can you actually shape the lens people look through on purpose? The answer is yes, and P.T. Barnum is one of the clearest examples of someone who understood this as a craft rather than a matter of luck. In 1841, Barnum wanted to buy the American Museum in Manhattan, but he had no money and no name. He nearly closed the deal anyway, on nothing but the strength of a persuasive proposal, until the seller backed out at the last second and sold the museum to a rival, Peel's instead. The reason was blunt. Peel's had a reputation. Barnum had none. So Barnum did something calculated. With no reputation of his own to protect, he had nothing to lose by attacking someone else's. He launched a letter-writing campaign in the newspapers, calling Peel's owners incompetent, warning investors their stock was about to collapse. The rumors spread, confidence cracked, the stock dropped, and the owners of the American Museum, watching Peel's credibility crumble, reversed course and sold to Barnum after all. Years later, once Barnum had built a reputation of his own, he used a completely different weapon against Peel's. He staged a mock hypnotism act that mimicked one of Peel's popular scientific attractions and turned it into a farce. He pretended to hypnotize a little girl, then comically failed to hypnotize anyone else in the crowd. Audiences laughed. Within weeks, nobody could take Peel's show seriously, and it closed for good. Early on, when Barnum had nothing, he used doubt and rumor, a blunt weapon for someone with nothing to lose. Later, once he had standing to protect, he switched to mockery, gentler, funnier, and far less risky to his own name. That wasn't luck. Barnum understood exactly how much reputation he had to spend, and he calibrated each attack to match it. But there's a limit here, and Thomas Edison is the example of what happens when you cross it. When Nikola Tesla's alternating current system threatened to outcompete Edison's direct current system, Edison went further than making a technical argument. He set out to terrify the public. He publicly electrocuted animals with AC current to paint it as lethal. Then, in 1890, he pushed for the first execution by electrocution to use AC, hoping the spectacle would brand Tesla's technology as an instrument of death. It backfired. The execution went horribly wrong, had to be repeated, and the public wasn't disgusted by Tesla. They were disgusted by Edison. His campaign damaged his own name more than his rivals, and he was forced to back off. The lesson is right there in the wreckage of that campaign. When you overreach attacking someone else's reputation, the attention doesn't land on your target. It lands on your cruelty. This is where it stops being a story about ancient generals and Victorian showmen and starts being about you. You already have a reputation, whether you built it on purpose or not. Somebody, right now, has a two-sentence version of you in their head, reliable or flaky, generous or self-serving, and that two-sentence version is doing more work in how you're treated than almost anything you actually do day to day. Which means the real mistake isn't having a reputation, it's leaving it unattended. Most people never choose what they want to be known for. They let it accumulate by accident, out of whichever moments happen to be visible, and then they're baffled when one bad week gets read as a permanent verdict, or one good year of trust gets erased by a single visible stumble. The fix isn't complicated, even if it's not easy. Pick the one quality you actually want to be known for, the thing that's true about you and useful to others. Reliability, honesty, precision, whatever it is. Let your visible actions reinforce that one thing consistently, instead of scattering yourself across 10 different impressions that don't add up to anything memorable. And once that reputation is standing, guard it the way you'd guard anything valuable. Skip the panic when someone criticizes you and let calm, consistent behavior make the criticism look like noise. Because the moment you stop paying attention to what you're known for, you haven't opted out of having a reputation. You've just handed the pen to whoever's talking about you when you're not in the room. Nobody gets to opt out of being seen through a lens. The only choice you actually have is whether you're the one who grounds it.